So this is called an associated and a disassociated state. And in our work, we like to use metaphors for things, because metaphor learning goes into your unconscious. And 90% of you is unconscious. Hopefully not 100%, but 90% is unconscious. It's only 10% you're working with. Imagine how smart you are that you can work with 10%. So where's the other 90? It's there. That's where your ideas come from. That's where your creativity comes from. That's where your thoughts come from. That's where your limited beliefs and belief systems come from. All in there. That's why if you go to sleep at night and you have a question, you ask it to yourself, wake up the next day, the chances are you'll have the answer. How's that possible? Because the unconscious doesn't really sleep. In our work, we do a lot of trance work, which I'll tell you more about tomorrow. Which is very interesting, because in trance work, you go into the person's subconscious. Right now you're in a trance. You're here and now listening to this. You're in a trance. When you watch television, you're in a trance. But we'll go further with it, and I'll tell you how important that is. I want to give you an example of what lawyers do. Let the metaphor be a trial. Now let the metaphor be an opening statement in a trial. You're all familiar with that as an opening statement, where you tell, okay. I'll give you an example of the normal way attorneys will do it, and then I'll give you an example of a way who is someone trained in NLP would do it. One is dissociated and one is associated, and what I'd like to know from you after is the difference in your feelings. So we'll make up some facts. Let's assume this is a case where a 5-year-old was killed in an automobile accident. Okay? Serious case. And he was killed right in front of his house as he got off the school bus. And his dad was upstairs, lived on the first floor, and he had dad was an average working guy who had lost his wife 2 years before. This 5-year-old was killed. He lost his wife to breast cancer, and his world was the child. So you don't have to tell you how sad that is. Okay? So now you're in a courtroom, and the average lawyer would get up and say something like this. Good morning, jurors. My name is Stan Waxman, and I represent Jimmy Jones. He's the father of little Jimmy Jones, who was killed in an automobile accident 5 years ago. And he was killed right in front of his house, run over by a truck. And we're here to collect money damages for this terrible thing that happened to this child. That's way number one. It's just a story. It's just statements. All right, all it is cognitive kind of stuff. All right, there was an accident, somebody was killed. You read about that all the time. It's like watching TV and watching, so somebody was killed in Iraq, somebody was killed in Afghanistan. And that's the same as being there. Well, one you relate to, it's like talking about sex or having sex. It's two different things. See, I knew you relate to that one. Always got to bring it down to the common denominator, don't we? Huh? Well, now let's get to the associated way of doing something. Watch. Same thing I'm going to do, but I'm going to do it the way I would do it in an associated way. And I would skip my name because they know my name by now, and it's just waste of words all the time. I'm Stanley. How many times are you going to say your name? And believe it or not, lawyers have asked me, how come you never say your name? Because they know my name, and I don't really care if they know my name. I just care if they do the right thing at the end of the case. In any event, it would be something like this. Good morning. The other day, I walked into my client's house. He was looking out the window, and he was crying. Tears were just rolling down his face. And I looked at him. I said, Jimmy, what's up? And he says, you know, I was just thinking of little Jimmy. And I'm waiting at the window. And I wait here every day for 5 years. Every day with the hope that that was just a bad dream. I wait every day to hear his voice. I know I'm never going to hear his voice again. But I still do it. And I think of that day, and I can hear the screech of that bus and that truck, and me with my heart pounding, running to the window, looking out, and seeing my little boy lay bleeding on the sidewalk. I'll never forget that scene. I ran down to him. The ambulance came. It seemed it took forever. He was unconscious. He was bleeding. I held him in my arms. I prayed. I said, no, please, God, don't let this happen. Please don't let this happen. Let him be okay. The ambulance came. Took him in the ambulance. I went along with him to the hospital. I could smell the feeling of death in that ambulance. I could see the blood streaming out of him. I kept praying. I could hear those sirens screaming all the way to the hospital, which seemed forever. And then by the time we got to the hospital, it was too late because Jimmy had gone. But I still wait every day, every single day. And I pray that it was a mistake and he'll be back. But I don't think he will be. Is there a difference, by the way, between that and the first one? What's the difference? Same story. How do you feel, though?
I'm crying now.
You feel it. You're involved.
Okay. That's the difference between associated and dissociated. One is just cognitive stuff that comes in, and the other is through your eyes. So if you're thinking about something, and you're looking at it, and you're in the picture, you're dissociated. If you're thinking about something in the picture, but you're still thinking about yourself being there, you're associated. Now, let's bring that up a notch to what you do. Take history, any subject, math. If you can, associate the child into it, to give it meaning, to give it life, to show what's really done with this in real life, but to get it out of them. How could you use this? What's so important about math? Let them give the examples of it instead of telling them. History. Do you teach American history or world history? Or?
World history.
World history. America in there somewhere?
Sometimes.
Less and less, I take it. Huh? We're rewriting history anyway. Well, it's only written by the winners, so what's the difference? It's not accurate anyway. I never knew a losing team that ever wrote history. But in any event, even taking history, or taking the Civil War, which is a good example, bringing out the associated feelings. Can you imagine, you have a brother, yeah, could you imagine fighting your brother for real in a war and trying to kill him? To stab him or shoot him? Well, that's what the Civil War is really about. Brother fighting brother, father fighting son. How insane is that? Picture if it was you. What would it feel like? Well, let them answer. What would it feel like? So what we're going to be dealing with is this information intake. How people take in information. And people take information in different ways, meaning in different lead systems. I'll explain all this. You'll hear it enough times that you'll be able to use it after tomorrow and play with it. And by the way, NLP is about having fun also. It's about lightening up on things, not being so serious about things. Because the lightness is what creates the creativity.